Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dimitri Johnson, and you're listening to MMALatestNews.com.
Welcome back to MMA Latest News. I am James Sweet, and we've got an absolutely brilliant show for you today. First things first, we're going to be talking all about the results from UFC Uruguay. Moving on to Jedrzejczyk versus Michelle Waterson. We're then going to be talking a little bit about Henry Cejudo before previewing an absolutely tremendous card at UFC 241, headlined by the heavyweight title rematch between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. Now, if you want to leave any sort of comment, feel free, and I'll get to it at the end of the video. So let's kick things off with UFC Uruguay. Valentina Shevchenko defended her title against Liz Carmouche in a rematch of a fight she lost the first time round. And I thought, first things first, Liz Carmouche didn't go for it in the way she should have done. I thought the fight wasn't particularly entertaining. And when you get your world title shot, you need to give it absolutely everything, and she simply didn't do that. She's going to be kicking herself now because she's towards the back end of her career. I don't think she's going to get another shot at a world title, so she'll be absolutely gutted that she simply didn't do enough. As for Valentina Shevchenko, I've seen a couple of comments that have called her boring. I completely disagree. In her last fight, she knocked Jessica Eye out cold with a tremendous head kick, so she can't help it if an opponent runs away for 5 rounds. I still think she's leagues above anybody in that division, and I think the only real challenge for her would come against Amanda Nunes, and in that fight, in their second match, it could be said that she did enough to win. I personally thought that Shevchenko should have won the bantamweight title that night. She didn't. Amanda Nunes got away with that one, but it's the only fight that I think makes sense for both women, because Amanda Nunes doesn't really have any competition at bantamweight or featherweight. She's demolished anybody. So I think those two are made for each other. They're the perfect dance partners, and those two will have to go against each other soon. As for the commentary, I thought it was really good. I'd like to make a quick comment on Michael Bisping. Of course, he's just come from the Contender Series. He's now commentating in the big leagues, and I think he's absolutely terrific at what he does. He's a great mind, and he's also very entertaining to listen to, so I hope in coming months that we can maybe see him on a couple of pay-per-views, because I think he's more than good enough to do that. As for Vicente Luque, he beat Mike Perry. Mike Perry needs to stop being in these wars for his health, but as for us as fans, it's absolutely brilliant to see. He looked like the Elephant Man by the end of that fight with that broken nose. One of the worst breaks I've ever seen, and I think arguably he did enough to win that fight, so I'd like to see him take a while out. I think it's going to be about 6 months before he can do sparring again, so take some time out, work on yourself from a tactical position, because I think from a skill set, he has a lot more to offer than people think he does. A lot of fans view him as a bit of a scrapper, but he's definitely more than that. As for Volkan Oezdemir, he got back to winning ways against Ilir Latifi, which is fantastic to see. He's been a bit unlucky in recent times. I know he lost against Dominic Reyes, but I think most people thought in London that night that he did enough to get the win. It wasn't a great decision, and that potentially cost him working towards a light heavyweight title. So now he's back. I wouldn't mind a rematch against Dominic Reyes. I think that makes sense, because I think the winner of Johnny Walker and Corey Anderson are the more likely to take on John Jones for the world title. Anyway, moving on to Jedrzejczyk and Michelle Waterson. I think it's a good fight. I think it makes sense for both women. I think that division looked a little bit weird when Rose Namajunas was at the top of the tree, because she'd beaten Michelle Waterson in devastating fashion. She'd done Jedrzejczyk twice, so both those women were seemingly out in the cold, but now she's lost. Jessica Andrade's got the belt. She's, of course, defending it next week, but Jedrzejczyk's already beat Jessica Andrade. So if she can beat Waterson, then I think it's likely that she'll get another shot at the world title. And as for Waterson, she's a real fan favourite at the Karate Hattie, so I hope that if she's able to win, then she matches up well with Jessica Andrade as well. There's some interesting matchups in that strawweight division, and it's good to see. Now, Henry Cejudo, of course, the UFC bantamweight champion, he's recently called out Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes for some intergender scrapping. Look, Henry Cejudo clearly isn't serious. He's just winding people up. He's just playing the game. And I quite like Henry Cejudo. He gets a lot of stick for being a bit cringeworthy, but he's just got it what he does. He needs to find a market where he can sell himself, and this is what he's doing. He's calling out women who he's never going to fight, but it's going to get him in the papers. It's going to get him on the front of MMA websites. So I think he's doing the right thing there, just coming out with the most ludicrous comments he can possibly think of. Now, what you're all probably here for is the UFC 241 preview. Daniel Cormier defending his world heavyweight title in a rematch against the man he took it from, Stipe Miocic. And I think this is an absolutely terrific fight, really intriguing as well. I think that Daniel Cormier has to go in the favourite because he won in such dominant fashion last time. But let's not forget, Stipe Miocic started that fight really well, didn't he? He was landing strikes at will. And it could be argued that it was the eye poke that offset Stipe Miocic. But at the same time, Daniel Cormier was looking for that right hand in the clinch every single time. It was missing Stipe's chin by inches. It was so close to taking him out. And eventually, of course, he did land it. I think Stipe always fights with quite a relaxed style, like he's always in control. And I think coming into this fight, he's not going to be able to do that because his headspace is going to be all over the place. But he's taken a year out, and I think that's good. Give his brain a lot of time to heal. He went through that war with Francis Ngannou, and I know through parts of that fight, he put on a really good display, but he did take a couple of shots, and I think that might be part of the reason why he went down so easily against Daniel Cormier. So it's good. He's had a rest. He's going to be back in action, and I think he's got a real chance here, but I think tactically, Daniel Cormier is all wrong for him. I think that he rolls out the way of that 1-2 that Stipe Miocic throws, and Stipe doesn't have the head kick to catch DC like Jon Jones does. So I have to make Daniel Cormier a favourite, and I think the winner hopefully will fight Jon Jones, but I'm not really expecting that to happen. Jon Jones tweeted again today that the third fight of Daniel Cormier will never happen because Daniel Cormier won't come down to light heavy. But I think from most fans' perspective, we'd like to see Jon Jones move up to heavyweight, not only to see what he'd be able to do at that division, but also because Daniel Cormier is the best he's ever been. So I think if there's ever a chance that Daniel Cormier can find a way to beat Jon Jones, then I think that would definitely be it. Anyway, the co-main event and potentially the nominal main event of the night. Nate Diaz back in action. He's taken 3 years out after that loss to Conor McGregor, a fight that was very close. And I think he's potentially the most underrated star in the sport. He's really underpromoted. He never gets the service that he should do from Dana White. I think that he could well be a pay-per-view headliner if he was promoted in the correct way, but he simply isn't. The money he's been offered hasn't been enough for him. And I think in a company that's lacking stars at the moment, he's needed. And it's a shame that he's the co-main event because I could see him easily selling in excess of 500,000 pay-per-view buys if he headlined on his own. I saw on the official UFC YouTube page that Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier's video, I think their preview had about 500,000 views, whereas Diaz was in excess of 1 million. He really is that star. People want to see what he's doing. Him and his brother, despite the fact that they don't fight fans just love them. They resonate with them. They relate to them. They really are superstars in the game. But he's not got an easy fight this weekend. He's taken on Anthony Pettis, who, of course, is coming off a win against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson when he knocked Wonderboy out cold in an upset knockout. So Nate Diaz certainly can't take this one lightly, but something that I wonder about is that Nate Diaz has been a bit of a zombie for such a long time. He just can take whatever anybody throws at him and keep walking forward. But how long will that last? How long before all the brain injuries start to add up and he's the type of fight that just goes down straight away? I'm worried from that perspective for Nate Diaz, alongside the fact that he's been out for quite a long time. But if he can get the win this weekend, then you have to imagine that the Conor McGregor trilogy is certainly a possibility. McGregor's looking for a dance partner. Donald Cerrone wasn't going to be that man. I don't think the Khabib fight really appeals, bearing in mind that the first fight just simply wasn't competitive enough. So I think the Nate Diaz rematch is something that could be in the pipeline. I think John Kavanagh's interested in that, and that's the fight that I see happening if Nate Diaz wins. And it's certainly also an option for Anthony Pettis. If he beats McGregor, I saw his coach Duke Rufus said that those two are meant to be in a fight. So that's interesting. And there's only one fight left to comment about on this card, and it's Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa, and it's certainly going to be a thriller. Both these men built like absolute Greek gods, two of the finest specimens in sport. Who do I think wins? I'm pretty confident that Yoel Romero is going to take this one. I think Costa's an excellent prospect, but he's never taken that step up. And I think Yoel is just going to have too much for him everywhere. Too explosive. I think his wrestling's just going to be a bit too good. People forget that he was an Olympic silver medalist in freestyle wrestling. He's up there with the best wrestlers in the game, if not the best. And I think he would be a UFC champion right now if Robert Whittaker wasn't such a complete fighter. But in their last battle, I know Whittaker was injured, but I had that fight a draw. I thought Yoel Romero was absolutely excellent last night and nearly had Robert Whittaker out of there. But credit to the Australian for holding on. So I'm going to say that Yoel Romero wins this one, and I think he'll win it by knockout within the first couple of rounds. Just too explosive, too good, too experienced at this stage. Anyway, Danny McCarthy says, howdy to you, Danny McCarthy. And Iceman says, Liz will regret that forever. I don't know who Liz... Oh, Liz Carmouche. Absolutely, yeah. She most certainly will. She'll be kicking herself. As I said, I don't think she's ever going to get an opportunity like this again. This was her last chance, and it was a good opportunity to be the first fight ever to headline in Uruguay, but she simply didn't give it enough, did she? And I think that most fans like ourselves will look at that thinking, Liz, you really did mess up. Anyway, that's all I've got time for on MMA latest news. I've been Jay Sweet. Make sure to like, subscribe, click that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.